And I just want to say thank you, Jethro. He donates $15 and says, for Kangs doing Kang shit. Thank you, Jethro. Everybody be like Jethro and support the show if you can. So yeah, I just want to briefly touch on what you brought up, the Cabinet of Curiosities. It's what the series is called, and it's actually a throwback. So Guillermo del Toro does the Rod Serling role in this show. He's the presenter, he's the host, and the whole show is basically centered around what used to be called a Cabinet of Curiosities before railroads, before the age of airplanes and traveling all over the world, before people really had that convenience to do so. There were things like circuses and carnivals and fairs that would come through town, and they would bring oddities to the, townies, basically. And a lot of times people would own these cabinets of curiosities, which was a giant cabinet with many different drawers and locks and stuff, and each one containing an item, and behind the item is a story. And so every episode of this show is Guillermo taking out one of the cabinets, taking out a piece, saying, and here's the story behind this piece. So that's the basic gist of the show. And just in case everybody didn't realize, there's going to be spoilers here. I should have said that in the beginning. But it's worth it. Even if you hear this stuff, you're still going to want to watch it because the show is so good for so many different reasons. So anyways, so he releases this demon. And it basically quickly eats Hans. It stands up, and it's got the from the waist down, it's a human. And from the top up, it's a giant mass of writhing tentacles. And it just wraps around Hans's face and pulls it in. And Hans is just standing there before he's eaten, happy. And he's like, I forget the woman's name, but he says the name of the sister. He's like, oh, Amelia. And, gets eaten, basically.
Yes.
So Nick takes off running. He runs down the hall. He's now playing cat and mouse with this demon Squidward thing. And he gets
very
to
Lovecraftian.
Very Lovecraftian.
But yeah, very Lovecraftian. Like you're the Lovecraft expert, and it's mentioned the Lovecraftian elements occur throughout the series, but I think that the symbolism of the tentacles, I might be reading a little too far in here, but we are the series is full of symbolism. Purposefully is that the tentacles are showing you that, like, even on the other side, on this sort of in this demonic realm, and throughout, like, all of these people who don't even know it, the tentacles reach into their souls, right, and sort of pulls it towards them, until it actually does that on the screen,
literally. Yeah. So he gets to the door leading outside, and he tries to open it, but he can't. And so he's screaming for help, and who appears but Amelia, the Mexican woman who he had wronged earlier in the show. Right. And so he's begging her, please let me out. I'm in danger, please. And she pulls out the lock that he gave her, the broken lock, which he told her, maybe you'll find some use for this. And she puts the lock on the door, barring him from leaving, and basically gives him the big F you and walks away. He turns around, gets eaten by the demon, and that episode is over. Right. So what did you think of this episode?
Yeah, I thought it was good. I thought it was a good way to start off the series. And it's definitely, it's definitely, I mean, like, if you're interested in this stuff, I thought overall the series, it's like, one thing about Del Toro is that, like, he has a particular, he's got a vision. He has a particular voice as an artist, and his aesthetic is always kind of, there's a lot of goop. There's a lot of goopy stuff. There's a lot of, squanching noises, and it's kind of this green, there's always a green sort of background, or sort of a green Lovecraftian aesthetic to it, which gives the sense of sort of claustrophobia and almost like a psychiatric, like you're in sort of a psychiatric altar world.
Right.
And even though the series is filmed in Toronto and Buffalo, it's like there are things where, you watch it and you're like, okay, this is obviously filmed on location in a real place, but it's also surreal. I mean, it's filmed with this, like, hyper digitized visual style where you're in reality, but you don't know if you're in a dream. And so for instance, I saw a couple of comments that were like, about one of the episodes, and it was like, it was the Panos episode. I'm not just going to go into that yet, but there is a part where, like, they walk outside and they get in a Ferrari, or maybe a Lamborghini, and they're like, no, that didn't come out until 1983, and this is set in the early 70s. And it's like, yeah, but
we're in the Twilight Zone, folks.
We're in the Twilight Zone. We're in the outer bands. We're in the Outlands. This isn't, time and space sort of get mixed up with this.
Yeah, it's called suspension of disbelief. It's a
Right.
damn show. Come on,
Right. So there are anachronisms, but they're purposeful anachronisms. And I like how Guillermo del Toro is such a sort of master craftsman with all this stuff. That doesn't mean that doesn't mean like I personally am into into it all, but I appreciate what he's doing here and his sort of fantastical, phantasmagorical worldview.